Hello everyone, this is Mr. Fitri, bringing you our first unit. Now, throughout this term, we're going to have 6 specific units that look at different parts of the Earth, how it works, and also space in the end. The first unit focuses in on the Earth system. Now, each unit will also be broken up into lessons. The goal is that each lesson will take up one class period. Now, some lessons might be a little longer, so we'll extend it if need be. All right? So, today we're going to look at Lesson 1 of the Earth system. For each class, we're also going to have objectives. These are the main goals for our class. What do you need to learn today? What do you need to take away from this lesson? Okay, well, today we're going to look at 1, what are the main parts of the Earth system? And 2, how do constructive and destructive forces change Earth? For most of our lessons, we'll also begin with some vocabulary. Now, I know we did some vocabulary in our vocabulary unit, of course. So some of these might be repeating because they're important. Others might be new because they're very specific to this topic. So number 1, system. A system is a group of parts that work together as a whole. Energy, the ability to produce change or do work. Here's one of these specific vocab words. Erosion. Erosion is wearing down of land by natural forces. So think about it like taking rock or soil, and natural forces are breaking it down into smaller pieces. Okay, maybe wind is doing it, or water, or ice. All right. We'll talk a little bit about that in the next few minutes. Constructive, again, to build, form, typically over a period of time. Destructive, to cause damage, to reduce to pieces. Force, push or pull exerted on an object. Gravity, the force that pulls an object towards the center of any object having mass. Particle, a very small piece of a much larger object. Now, if you need to pause this to write these down, please do. But because this is a part of our e-learning YouTube video class, I'll just keep pushing ahead because I'd like to get it done for you. And you can take as much time as you need with these lessons. So, first objective, what are the main parts of the Earth system? So, what we need to understand is that the Earth system is driven by 2 main sources: heat from the sun and heat from the center of the Earth. And each are going to affect the Earth differently, all right? They're going to have effects on this system. And we're going to look at those in the next few minutes here. So the Earth system contains 4 parts. We call these spheres. Now, each of these spheres are separate yet connected. All right? This is why it comes back to that system. All right? Different parts working together as a whole, working together as one. So take a moment. I want you to think, what might be a sphere of the Earth? What do you think? All right, let's look at them. First, hey, we've got air, all right? We've got land. We've got water. And we've got life. So these are the 4 spheres of the Earth system. And I hope you can think right now how they work together and yet how they are different, right? Life, like you and I, animals, plants, we're very different than water or land or air, right? Yet, we rely on them, right? We need water to survive. We need land and air to survive. Likewise, we have an effect on water and land. Now think about it. Keep that in the back of your mind, because we're going to come back to that that relationship between life and these different spheres of the Earth. So let's hone in on the first one, air. Now, we call it air, but scientifically we call it the atmosphere. Now, the atmosphere is Earth's outermost layer, right? You may not think of it as a layer because we can't really touch it necessarily. We can't really see it necessarily, but it's there, and it is an important layer of the Earth. It's made up of the gases, it's made up of gases, mostly nitrogen and oxygen. And the atmosphere contains Earth's weather and is the foundation for the different climates around the world. Okay? Next, we've got the geosphere. This is the land sphere of the Earth. So, of the geosphere, of the Earth, we have to think about its 3 main parts. First one is a metal core. So you see that picture there outlining the different parts of the Earth. In that middle, that light orange piece is the core. You see there's an inner core and an outer core. As we'll learn in the next several units, that is primarily made up of metals. Next, we've got a solid middle layer. This is called the mantle. So you'll see that in the picture. It's that dark orange / reddish color. And then there's a rocky outer layer. That's the crust, the outside of the Earth where we live. Okay? Now we're going to dive into each of these in preceding units. So if you're wondering about them, just wait. The next is the hydrosphere. This is the water sphere of the Earth. And as you can guess, it contains all of Earth's water. Now, I'm sure you know already, but about 3/4 of the Earth is covered in water. Okay, somewhere between 70 and 75% of the surface of the Earth is water. Now, this includes oceans, rivers, lakes, but it also includes glaciers, right? Frozen water. It includes groundwater, water under the ground, and water vapor, okay? Water in the air. Now, almost all of this water is salt water. Only a small portion is fresh water. Lastly, the biosphere. This is the sphere that contains life on the planet. Okay? And as it says here, this is the part of Earth that contains living organisms. Okay? Things that are alive. Plants and animals and humans, fish, etc. Now, these are found all over the Earth, but also within the Earth and within the water. Okay? So again, what are the 4 spheres of the Earth? Again, we've got the atmosphere, the air. We've got the geosphere, land. Hydrosphere, water. And biosphere, life. Now remember, these are part of the Earth system. So they are separate, they're different, they're unique, but they all work together, all right? If we would be missing one, the Earth would be a dramatically different place. Okay, so again, as a little objective summary here at the end, which we'll have at the end of each lesson or each part, all right? Again, what are the main parts of the Earth system? Of course, life. And a cute little panda bear. I think they're adorable, especially when they do funny things like that. We've got, of course, air. We've got the geosphere, land, and hydrosphere, water. Now, I can't discuss this with you, unfortunately, because this is the video portion of e-learning. So, maybe in the future we'll be able to talk about this. But I want you to take a moment. I want you to think aloud. How do you and I affect the biosphere? How do we affect other living organisms, animals, and plants? Likewise, how do humans affect the atmosphere? How do we affect the air around us, the air we breathe? Think about that. How do humans affect the geosphere? How are we affecting the land that we live on? Think about it in terms of rocks. Sure, but also soil, right? Dirt, where we plant trees and vegetables. All right? How do we affect that? And finally, how do we affect the hydrosphere? What effect are we having on the water that surrounds us, that makes up nearly 3/4 of the world as we know it? These are things I want you to think about, all right? I hope we will have time to broach these subjects in class together, all right? Just kind of think aloud. So, lastly here, we've got objective 2. All right, let's try to zoom through these a little bit. So objective 2 is, how do constructive and destructive forces change Earth? So, first of all, we need to understand that land is constantly being created and destroyed by competing forces. Okay? Remember those definitions from our vocabulary unit: constructive and destructive. To build or form, to destroy, to break down. So let's take a step back here. I want you to think, what if you lived at the same place for 100 million years? Okay. First of all, we have to pretend that we can live for 100 million years, and that we would want to. But would things change? What do you think? The answer is yeah, right? Not only in our modern world would we see the construction of buildings and homes and skyscrapers, but we'd probably see the destruction of them. But as we'll see going forward is we would also see the changes of the earth itself. You might see mountains rise, perhaps mountains fall. You'd see rivers form. You'd perhaps see vegetation, plants, change over those 100 million years. 100 million years is a long time, and a lot changes within the earth in that time. All right? It is a long time, but it's a short time for the earth. So let's focus in on these constructive forces. So these constructive forces shape Earth's surface by creating rocks and building up land masses such as mountains. Now there are 3 specific constructive forces. These forces include plate tectonics, volcanoes, and earthquakes. Now, as we go forward, we'll see how each of these play a role in forming and changing and building the earth. Because I, for one, think of earthquakes as a destructive force, something that breaks or harms the earth. But actually, we'll see that they are the primary. They're a primary mover in constructing and changing and building the earth. So we'll see that in the next few classes. Last thing here, destructive forces, all right? These forces destroy and wear away land masses through processes like erosion and weathering, okay? Breaking down the earth and moving it. So these forces include ice, rain, wind, and changing temperatures. You see in the picture there, that's called the Grand Canyon. It's in the United States, where I'm from. Now, it's a massive canyon, a massive hole in the ground essentially. And it was formed over millions and millions of years by that river at the very bottom. The Colorado River, which is running through the Grand Canyon, slowly wore away, eroded the rock, and formed this massive canyon. So again, our two forces that change Earth are constructive forces and destructive forces, okay? So we'll keep building upon these as we go forward here.